guys, Corinna Coffin here. I am going to be taking you all through some nutrition tips and a recipe. I'll just wait a couple minutes here though to let everyone join. See if we got some party people in the house so I'm not talking to myself. Hope you guys are doing well. I was just talking with Danielle a moment ago. We just had an earthquake about 2 hours ago here in Salt Lake City where I am. So that was an exciting morning so far. Yeah, keep trickling in. Okay, awesome. Well, I'll get to it. You guys can always tune in and watch this later after it's out online, but welcome. I am Corinna Coffin. I'm on the Spartan Pro team, but probably most relevant to today is I am a registered dietitian, and I really want to help you guys, especially during this crazy time, to find stress-free, healthy foods that you can eat and recipes to make in your kitchen without feeling like, oh, I gotta go out to the store or I don't have anything really to get creative with. That's false. We can all be creative in the kitchen, just have to think maybe a little bit differently, and that's hopefully where I can come in today and provide some insight on that. So I have a lot of foods hopefully that you can see in front of me, and this is not to sound like an overwhelming recipe because it is so easy, but I laid out all of these options here to show you just how many different things you can use in this recipe or how many different foods you can incorporate. So a lot of options. I'm not going to use all of them. I want to be mindful about what I have in stock in my kitchen and not blow through everything just for the sake of, creating this video. So I'm going to show some different variations and leave that up to you all for what you want to do in your own kitchen. So I'm making an Orzo bean salad with lots of veggies. I'm going to top it off with an olive oil and vinegar dressing on top, which is totally optional. But I think the most important thing during this time for everyone is, yes, we want to eat healthy. Food is extremely powerful, right? So, but this is not the time to be a food snob. We don't really have that option. And sometimes, you're at the store and the shelves are all cleared and you just have to take what you can get. So this recipe fits in really well with limited options, or maybe just, hey, I don't have this, but I have this. Will that work? And the answer is totally yes. So during this time, I realized fresh produce may or may not be an option for people. A couple days ago, I was at the grocery store and it seemed like fresh produce was the only thing that was left. And then I had to go yesterday for a couple things, and there were just stripped areas where there was no fresh produce at all, no potatoes, no onions, no garlic, nothing. So I realized that it might be different and look different for everyone. So that being said, we have options. We have fresh produce, we have canned items, we have frozen options that we can go with. So I'm presenting a little bit of everything here, and again, leaving that up to you to decide. But from a bean standpoint here, I think those are one of the most versatile foods that you might have plenty of stocked up in your pantry at this time. And they are so great because they're packed with so many nutrients, they're high in fiber, they're a great plant-based protein option, but they also contain carbohydrates as well, which is going to be great, providing us energy throughout the day. So they're kind of a two-in-one food that is really great to utilize. I have a couple different options here. I have my garbanzo beans. I also have black beans. This recipe, you can really use a combination or just whichever one is your favorite. Because I don't want to blow through all of my beans in one day, I'm just going to use the garbanzo beans here, and I already drained them and rinsed them. But that's going to be kind of the foundation of this meal. If you're not a big bean person, you can use the pasta as more of the foundation. So for me, love beans. I'm going to put the garbanzo beans here in this bowl. let's talk pasta now. So I know a lot of you guys have kids, and pasta's probably on the list of things that, you know, picky eaters will definitely eat. So I have Orzo here. You guys can see it's kind of like a smaller pasta, almost looks a little rice-like. You can use whatever grain you want. You can use rice, you can use, I have some penne pasta here, for example. Orzo was actually the only pasta that was left on the shelf when I went grocery shopping the other day. So this is what I got. And no, it's not the healthiest. It's not a whole grain. It's not whole wheat. But you know what? I'm going to roll with it because we can't be picky at this time. And again, I can choose how much or how little I want to use for this recipe. But this is what I have. So if you have kids, you might want to use more of the pasta or more of the grain as the foundation rather than the beans. If it doesn't matter to you, maybe you increase or decrease the amount of pasta or grain depending on maybe how active you're going to be today, or whenever you're going to make this recipe. So for me, I am just going to use all of this in the container, because also you can use this time to meal prep for the entire week. And this recipe stays great for a lot of days. And so you can't really go wrong with making extra, and then you can refrigerate it or put it in the freezer for a couple of days. Totally fine. So right now we have our mix of chickpeas and Orzo pasta right now. So now we're gonna get into the vegetables. And again, a lot of options here. I took out some of my canned options that I bought and stocked up on a little while ago. So I have canned green beans, also have canned corn. Was able to snag a few fresh veggies yesterday at the store. And because those are not shelf stable, I'm gonna utilize those first. I have some spinach, I have some bell peppers. But again, if you are already out of fresh produce or that's not an option at the store, cans is a great option. Also, these little guys that you can store in your freezer, just a mixed frozen vegetable medley. And these are great. Throw them on the stove with a little bit of water, maybe some seasoning, and incorporate those in the dish. So whatever option you have available, use it, but we definitely want to add some veggies in here. And I almost forgot my broccoli, which I cooked earlier. So like I said, when I went to the store yesterday, there just happened to be a ton of broccoli. And so earlier this morning, I went ahead and just lightly steamed it. So it wasn't just completely raw, which again, if you like raw broccoli, go ahead and do that. But we definitely want to add some color to this meal. We want to add some nutrients. We want to add some fiber on top of our beans. So again, this is totally up to you. This is where you can get really creative. Add some broccoli. And I took out some spinach leaves here. There was absolutely no pre-made salad mixes at the store yesterday, like completely wiped out. But I found these bunches of spinach, and no one had touched them, and there were tons of options available here. So I took these. I think they're great just to stuff in smoothies, which I'll probably be doing a video of maybe later this week or next week. But these are great. You just rinse them. You can stuff them into the blender. For today's purposes, I wanted to show you guys that you can kind of create this into more of a salad recipe, or at least incorporate some fresh leafy greens in there as well. Again, depending on what you prefer, if you have picky eaters, if you're looking for a lighter meal or maybe something more substantial. But we have our spinach. So I'm just gonna cut off some of the stems here. And then I'm just gonna give it a nice chop, just so we don't have giant spinach leaves floating around. And I'm gonna add a little bit of extra greens to this meal. Again, you can always never have too much salad. So now we've got a nice green mixture here with our broccoli, our spinach, our orzo, and our beans. Now I'm gonna add a little bit of other color in addition to that with, I had this left over from last night's salad that I made, and I think another great point to bring up is food waste. We definitely want to minimize food waste, particularly during this time, but it's something nice to always think about and keep in the back of your head. But little leftovers, little scraps of food that you might not be using for a certain meal can absolutely be utilized later on if you need to. A friend gave me this tip the other day, but she has a Ziploc bag that she keeps in her freezer, and any like vegetable butts or stems or peelings or chicken bones or like meat scraps, she throws everything in this freezer bag and then makes a really awesome stock for chicken soup or vegetable soup later in the week or in a month from then. So I thought that was a really great idea. Definitely be mindful of food waste and collecting those scraps or little leftovers and making the most of those. So I have a little pepper here that I'm going to slice to add some red color in there. And I think the biggest thing that people maybe forget or maybe they don't realize is that color in our food signifies or represents different types of nutrients. So, the red in our bell pepper here is due to the anthocyanins present, which have their own specific, nutrients specific to those color foods, whereas our yellow foods are going to have carotenoids. And again, carotenoids contribute to our vitamin A content. Our body uses carotenoids to make vitamin A in the body. So again, that's something that maybe you don't think about often, but could start incorporating more color into your meals in order to achieve all of our important essential vitamins and nutrients that we need to get throughout the day on a basis. So I've got some yellow pepper here. I'm probably not going to use the whole thing because, again, I want to be mindful of how much I'm using food-wise and, what I don't need to go through and what I should save for later. So added my pepper. You guys can see starting to get nice and colorful here. So let's run through a checklist. And I think this is really helpful for creating meals during this time or any time, but we want to make sure we're representing all of the macronutrients. So we want to make sure we've got a protein source. Here we have our beans. If we were using a whole grain pasta or a whole grain option instead of the Orzo, we would probably have a decent amount of protein coming from there as well. For our carbohydrates, we also have our beans. Beans kind of have that 2-in-1 combo. So we do have, it does provide us with a nice carbohydrate source. We have our grain or our pastas, which again, you could totally omit from the recipe and you'd still have that carbohydrate source from your beans. And then vegetables, which again, they're low in carbohydrates, but they still do provide us with carbohydrates, a little bit of protein, and obviously a ton of nutrients. So what we're missing right now is some fat. Like I said, I'm going to make a dressing for the top, which, an oil-based dressing is absolutely going to provide us with some healthy fats. At the same time, you can get creative with this and add whatever kinds of fats that you prefer. I think what goes really well with this recipe, avocado, which I'm not going to use today for this because I want to make avocado toast today. I have some feta cheese crumbles, which will go excellent with this dish as well. I also have, because this is kind of green bean salads of sorts, I have pumpkin seeds and craisins. I definitely love to have a little like fruity crunch or nutty fruity addition to a lot of the pastas and salads that I make. So for me, this sounds like a really great option. If that doesn't float your boat, it's totally fine. So again, a lot of options for fats, a lot of options for everything in this recipe. I'm going to show you my salad dressing option because I think it's really versatile. You can use it in more than just this one recipe, and it's very, very simple. So I'm going to use a little mug here to mix this all up, but we're going to be using about, it's kind of like a 1-to-3 ratio of vinegar to olive oil. And again, you can make a ton of this and then save it in the fridge for another meal down the road, or you can just make what you need for now at the for this recipe. But just a 1-to-3 ratio here. So I'm kind of just going off of visualization. I can definitely write the recipe down for you all if that's helpful. The one ingredient that I really like to use is mustard. So some people like mustard powder or mustard seed. Most people probably just have mustard in the fridge. So I'm going to grab that. And what the mustard does is it brings a little bit of acidity, additional acidity to this dressing. Of course, we have the vinegar in here too, but the mustard's going to allow it to mix up really nicely. Obviously, you have to mix it pretty hard to combine the oil and vinegar. This mustard kind of helps give it a little bit of creaminess too, and also combine it a little bit better. So again, maybe just a teaspoon or 2 of it. And then my favorite here is garlic. And if you've been reading a lot of the nutrition information that's kind of out there on social media or on the web, garlic is a really great food option because it's an antiviral, antibacterial, antimicrobial. It's got really great properties in it. It's definitely not going to prevent you from getting the coronavirus or cure you from it. But again, there are certain foods that have more of a protective effect or that are definitely not a bad thing to consume, especially during this time. I love garlic. I try to incorporate it in every dish that I make. So I'm just going to mince this up and add it to my dressing. You can just sprinkle it in your salad as well, but I find that it adds a little bit of extra flavor to the dressing. So I'm just going to mince it up really small. And I do have a garlic soup recipe that if you follow me on Instagram, I frequently post about it because, especially during cold and flu season, because it helps you get over, it has helped me get over cold and flu symptoms a lot more quickly than just kind of sitting at home wallowing in your sorrows. So maybe I'll do that another time for this post. I have a lot of garlic here, so again, it doesn't bother me. My boyfriend still loves me when I eat garlic, so I'm gonna add that all into my dish here. And then lastly, I have some spices, and I think this really adds a nice kick to the dish. I'm a spice girl, so red pepper, red chili flakes are a must for me, and I really enjoy that. So I'll add that into the dressing as well. And then turmeric, which is a super potent anti-inflammatory spice. It comes from the curcumin family. A lot of really great benefits here, especially for brain health and memory, actually. So again, I'm just gonna add this right here into the salad dressing. Turmeric absorbs really well when you have black pepper. So actually I'll grab that. Black pepper and a dietary fat source, which we have here from our olive oil, is gonna help it, help your body absorb it much better than if it were on its own. So a couple dashes of turmeric again, a little bit of black pepper. I don't find that turmeric has a very strong taste. Others disagree, but for me, I will pretty much put it in any dish because it doesn't make a difference, and I know that it has a lot of health benefits. So maybe something to keep in your spice cabinet moving forward if it's not already. And I'm just gonna mix this all together, give it a nice whisk here. And this is a good time to dip your finger in it and test if it's too oily, or maybe it's got too much of a bite, maybe you need to add more oil in it. But I've got a lot of practice with this, so it looks pretty perfect to me. So again, you can dress your salad in this, which kind of acts as a marinade. And I mean, you can let it soak for forever. You can put it in the fridge for days and with this dressing on it, and it will just soak up all these nice flavors and almost get better with time. So for instance, it's only 10 a.m. here, 10:30, so I'll probably eat this later, give it some time to soak in this marinade. So I'm going to drip across the top. And I do want to have a fat source. So actually I'm going to go, I have a lot of pumpkin seeds stocked up. So I'm going to use my pumpkin seeds today. Maybe I'll add some of this feta cheese to it before I eat it later. Again, adding the craisins here. It looks beautiful. I'll show you guys in just a second. Great colors. I think picky eaters could still even get down with this recipe. I use this all the time. I think the biggest thing to take away, or one of the biggest things to take away during this time, as we get more creative with our food ideas and utilizing canned foods and frozen foods and fresh foods, and not, not being fearful of, oh, it doesn't have as much nutrients if it's not fresh. Like, get that out of your system right now. This is not a time to be picky, but neither is any period of time, right? I mean, there's still so many benefits of consuming frozen foods, canned foods, potentially even more so than fresh produce, depending on how that produce, how long it took for that produce to ripen and traveling to and from your grocery store. So get that out of your head. Being able to call upon all these different options for food makes our lives so much easier. And I know convenience is key for a lot of people when it comes to eating healthy. Oh, I don't have time. Oh, I just spend hours in the kitchen on a Sunday meal prepping. Well, you don't have to, because you can open a can and drain it and rinse it off in a matter of minutes. And you can essentially put this recipe together. So store this one in the back of your head for not only now, but to use down the road when kind of things get back to normal, you get back to your busy lives again. So I'm just going to show you guys how beautiful this recipe looks, because I'm sure you probably can't see it from there. Look at that. So beautiful. Lots of colors, lots of nutrients. We've got a representation of everything, all of the macronutrients, protein, fat, carbs, and we also have it loaded with micronutrients from vegetables. So this is a winning recipe. Let me know if you have questions. Drop them in the comments below. I'll be coming at you guys 3 times a week with these live segments to offer you nutrition info. Spartan is posting a workout, nutrition, mindset post every single day so that you guys can stay on top of your game even in these trying times. So thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate you being here and joining, and we'll see you next time.